Okay, so I'm officially live, Romeo and Juliet. I do have to tweet out the link. I'm so sorry that I'm late. I underestimated how long it was going to take to straighten my hair for tomorrow. I thought I could do it before the live show. No, not gonna happen. At least no one's on right now, so just talking to myself. So let's see, let me find out where my live show link is, and then I shall tweet it and apologize for being super late. Also, didn't get to do my makeup. Chilling out in a yellow shirt that says heartache on here. I thought it was kind of appropriate. You can't really see it. I actually embroidered it, so yeah. Okay, so here's my live show link. Ooh, the thumbnail turned out really cute. Okay. Also, my background is just like gross because I am trying to redo some of my shelving stuff, like just like how I have it arranged. Okay, I'm officially tweeting out the link. I am live. Sorry for the delay. Okay, so that should be tweeted out now. Yeah. This is a very vibrant shirt on camera. Like, I don't know why that is. But, also I need to get a haircut. This is just like random chatter because I don't think anyone's watching right now currently. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you are and you're just like, what are you doing? So because my hair took a little bit longer than I thought it was going to take, I didn't really get to take any notes for this live show. I didn't do any notes last time. Well, I haven't really done notes since my Hamlet live show, so I feel like I'm going to be okay without them. I was running through it last night and I just got super emotional, so I'm not going to get emotional now. I'm going to make sure that that doesn't happen because crying on a live show does not sound like fun. Okay, so let's see. Yes, so no one is here yet. Whoever. Okay, so I just left a little comment in the chat just in case anyone like sees it or like, you know, shows up and is like, oh, what's going on, you know. So yeah, this is my Romeo and Juliet live show. Let's see if I can find the tweet so I can retweet it to like my actual Twitter account. Also, I have the windows open, so it might be a little loud, but I'm hoping it's gonna be okay. I'm gonna try to talk pretty loud anyway, since I feel like the lives aren't like loud enough sometimes, so I'm gonna try to like project my voice a little bit. Hopefully that works. Let's see. Come talk about Romeo and Juliet with me live right now. Okay. Okay. So that has been tweeted out. Hopefully people will start to trickle in. So yeah. Oh hey. Hi Colleen. So I'm a little late, about like by an hour, which I feel super bad about, but I underestimated how long it was going to take to straighten my hair for tomorrow. So that's why I'm late. So also, I didn't really get to take any notes or like really run through anything beforehand. So I did run through like my thoughts on Romeo and Juliet last night, but yeah, so I'm hoping that this is going to be a good live show. Let's see. Oh, good. So I'm glad that you didn't miss it then. That would have, you know, I always get nervous that people aren't going to show up, so I'm glad that you did. Let's see. So this month's, well, not this month's, April's book was Romeo and Juliet, April's play. Clearly I am flustered, but so my history with this play was basically I got this play back in 5th grade and I read it, really enjoyed it, and then I read it again in freshman year of high school, really enjoyed it again, and I haven't read it since freshman year of high school. I have like seen performances of it and I've seen like movies and adaptations, but I haven't really read it again until this month. So that was like super exciting and such like a fun and interesting you know, thing to do, because I feel like, you know, with Hamlet, I reread that like every few months. It's a pretty regular thing. With Much Ado About Nothing, I've reread that so many times since I've like first read it. And yeah, so I feel like this is one of my only favorites that I haven't actually revisited in any sort of capacity. So yeah, it's just been really exciting to get to revisit this play. You know, it was my first Shakespeare play, so it like totally means a lot to me. Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna need to carry my laptop because this, I don't know, this setup is different than normal, so yeah, it's so interesting like how much I remembered from this play. Like, I think that maybe it's because I did memorize a few of like the sections, especially like one of Juliet's soliloquies for school. I had to recite that in front of the class. I actually had to do that twice because the teacher liked it so much and he's like, this is how you should do it. You should actually act it while you know, recite it. So I had to do it twice, but that was, let me see, that was the Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou, Romeo soliloquy. I think I might have it here. Yeah, I do. That's Act 2, Scene 2. Yeah, I'm doing a live show right now.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I know. You can you? I need to talk.
Oh, sorry. I just wanted to show you the dress I got.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. Okay, bye.
Okay.
I'll talk to you.
That was, I don't even know what I don't even know what I was talking about now. But yeah, that's like the, oh Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou, Romeo. That was also my mom. I was supposed to do this at 5, so I told her I was going to do it at 5. That's why, you know, just things happen. Anyway. But yeah, I mean, like there's so many just iconic parts of this play that I feel like are just like, kind of like everyone knows them. Sometimes people get it wrong, but you know, this is, I feel like even more so. I feel like everyone says that Hamlet is like the most popular Shakespeare play. I think it's Romeo and Juliet, just because I feel like everyone has read Romeo and Juliet. Everyone knows it. Not everyone knows Hamlet. So, but I do feel like Hamlet's the best one. So, but I mean, that's just me being like super biased. So, I don't really know where to start with this. I have just like a lot of thoughts about it. So, you know, whoever is watching right now, what are your thoughts about Romeo and Juliet? Because I feel like, you know, we've been taught Romeo and Juliet a certain way. So I feel like, you know, we've all kind of heard the same things about it, but I don't know if anyone feels differently or if they agree with the way it's been taught, where it's kind of like, oh, Romeo and Juliet are just stupid teenagers and they're just, you know, working off of hormones and stuff like that, and we shouldn't really, I don't know, like, I feel like we really discredit Romeo and Juliet a lot, especially in English classes where it's mostly taught. So I don't know if any of you guys feel differently about that. I know I personally feel differently, but so I don't know what your guys' like opinions are about Romeo and Juliet. Did you like it? Did you dislike it? You know, just let me know. But I guess I can talk a little bit about my feelings for it right now. I really disagree with the overall rhetoric, even outside of English classes. I'm always so surprised when I see like legitimate authors who are published and who have written so many books and stories, and especially write for teenagers, where they will say that Romeo and Juliet is a play about stupid teens and no one should really take them seriously, and it's not a love story and stuff like that. I feel like a lot of people really try to pigeonhole this play as like either it is a love story or it's not a love story. And I feel like it can be a lot of different things. I don't feel like it has to be one specific genre of play. I do feel like it is partially a love story. I don't think that it's, you know, fair to completely disregard that aspect of Romeo and Juliet, because there is a lot of love in this play, and I don't think that we should, you know, disregard teenage love so quickly, especially when it's, you know, in this play it's such a rebellion against like the adults in the play who are just caught up in this huge rivalry, this, you know, unbased or like baseless hatred for each other. And, you know, I think it's a true like teenage rebellion to like for them to show love in the face of all this hatred that's going on, especially when they have both been taught to hate each other for basically their entire lives. You know, they've lived, that's all they've known. They're so young, like they don't remember when this started, and like the adults don't even really remember when this started, and the kids have just been raised in just so much hatred for each other and so much division, and then they are able to come together and love each other and try to mend all of this, like all these broken bonds between these two families. And in the end, it's just like, I don't want to say it's completely like for naught, but I feel like, you know, it's such like a learning moment for these families, and I feel like it's also supposed to be a learning moment for us as like the readers or the audience of this play, that we're not really supposed to like side with the parents before their like Romeo and Juliet's death. We're supposed to like see Romeo and Juliet's death and be like, hey, maybe we shouldn't hate people for no reason, and maybe all of these, you know, rivalries or whatever are just completely useless, and we should just love each other and accept each other and not like continue on with all of like this awful negativity. But for some reason people have read this play or seen this play, decided to just be like, okay, we're gonna completely disregard that, and we're just going to talk about how stupid Romeo and Juliet are, even though I personally don't think that they're that stupid. Like, I was like, while reading this play, so many of the like most iconic lines and some of the most interesting lines are given to Juliet, which I love so much because I love Juliet so incredibly much. She is just literally one of my all-time favorite characters just ever. I think she's one of the best female characters in a Shakespeare play, specifically. And like there's so many things I love about her, because she's so inquisitive and she's always like questioning like just just the status of like everything that's going on. And especially when Romeo kills Tybalt, and she's like struggling with how to feel about it, because she talks about how it kind of would have been a lose-lose situation either way. And I don't know if I completely agree with how she ended up at her, like, you know, what about like how she decided upon like that entire conflict, but I do really like the way that she just works through it, and especially how she vocalizes it. Like, she is just like completely, like, we see her entire thought process from like beginning to end. And I feel like, you know, even throughout the play, we like see so much of her thought process. We see so much of like who Juliet is and how she thinks about things and her opinions, and how she's able to kind of, you know, like see the facts of a situation and work through it and either like change her opinion or like not. And you know, it's so, I don't know, it's just really interesting. I like her as a character a lot. Yeah, I know it's a lot of people really dislike Romeo and Juliet, and I totally get why they would, because we've always just kind of been taught that teenagers don't know anything, they don't know any better, that they need adults to kind of guide them, or you know, or teenage love is stupid and baseless, and you know, and I feel like that's the absolute antithesis of what Shakespeare was trying to convey in this play, where you know we're supposed to see Romeo and Juliet, and yeah, they're teenagers, but we should also kind of respect their feelings and their emotions. And clearly when we don't respect their, you know, teenagers and how they feel and how they've, you know, chosen to convey their emotions, then clearly things end up to be really bad. Because the way that things ended up, like Romeo and Juliet dying, wasn't because they loved each other, it was because of their family's hatred for each other. And that's the reason why they died. They died because of the hatred, not because of the love. And I feel like that's what Shakespeare was trying to convey, but for some reason it's just like the message has been really muddied over the past hundreds of years, which is just so strange to me. And I don't know, I think it's super interesting. I do have a post that someone wrote one time that I really liked, and I think I have it on Twitter somewhere, so I'm gonna try to find it. And it was basically saying the same sort of thing that I'm saying, and I just think it's so interesting the way that high school English classes have chosen to teach this play to teenagers. Like, it's just so strange. We're kind of telling teenagers that we don't respect them and that we think that they're stupid and that they don't know what's best for them, which I think is such like a strange message to send to teenagers, especially freshmen in high school who are probably around 14 years old. And, you know, we probably shouldn't be teaching that kind of message to teenagers. We should probably be telling them that we support them and that we understand their emotions and that they're valid. But I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. Let me see if I can find that post. I'm hoping I can find it because it is just so good. And I love the way that this person put it. I'm trying to see if I can find it. Oh, no, I can't find it. I was hoping I'd be able to find it. So sad. Okay, well, I'll read you guys this thread that I made on Twitter once. This was back in November of last year, and I said, I get so mad when people misunderstand Romeo and Juliet, like, I'm literally shaking. Our education system really let us all down when it comes to teaching Shakespeare, which I agree. I feel like with any Shakespeare play, our education system really does not do it justice. Romeo and Juliet is actually so pertinent to teens because it's a story about the world around them warring for no reason, and they're just trying to love and set things right, but hardly anyone listens to them, so things go to shit. The way it's taught is meant to undermine teens and their emotions. Juliet is the most intelligent character in the play, and she's never listened to, which is so true. Like, literally, she tries to reason with her parents, and they're just like, we don't care at all. Like, they literally don't care. Like, her mom doesn't care, her dad really doesn't care, and he's such an asshole. I literally hate Juliet's dad so much. Like, if I could fight, well, okay, no, if I could fight any Shakespeare character at all, it would be Juliet's dad. I'd tell him to freaking square up, we can meet outside, I'm so ready to fight him. And so that was basically the thread. I wish I could find that one post that I shared. I don't know where it is, but it was just so well put, and I'm sure I've shared it a bunch on my Twitter because I do that a lot. Ooh, what's this? I just found a tweet where I'm like, this post about Romeo and Juliet made me ugly cry, and now I'm like very curious about what this post is. Yeah, it is. That's why I'm like, I think that this is probably Shakespeare's like most, I don't know, maybe not popular play, but just it's talked about so much, and it's just like, I feel like it is kind of run into the ground a little bit, but I feel like also it's so like mischaracterized that we kind of need to have a bit of a refresher on Romeo and Juliet, because so many educators that I've seen have just completely butchered it so badly. And I feel like that's probably why a lot of people don't like it, is because these, English teachers are completely misinterpreting the play. And I don't know if that's like them as teachers or if it's their lesson plans that they're given from like the state or the school or whatever. They're like, I don't, I'm sure that, schools kind of differ from like county and state and whatever, but maybe it's not them personally that are misinterpreting Romeo and Juliet. But I feel like that's part of the reason why people don't like it, is because it's misinterpreted, and that misinterpretation kind of gets really beaten into the ground. So I don't know. Oh, I can't find it. Oh, that's sad. So yeah. Damn. Let's see. I'm gonna see if I can find any other. No, I'm not gonna be able to find it. That's so sad. Anyway, it was a really good post. If I can find it, I'll put it on my Shakespeare Twitter, my We Read the Bard Twitter, and then, you guys can see it. But yeah, so that's kind of like my rant about just like how teachers teach Romeo and Juliet. I did listen to a really great podcast, and it's called Chop Bard. I listened to this, I think, couple years ago, but I do re-listen to it every once in a while because it's just so good. And he did an entire series on Romeo and Juliet. He goes like through every single scene and kind of, gives a little bit of an interpretation for it, and it's just so interesting. And I love his outlook and his, opinions on Romeo and Juliet, because I feel like he just really he just gets it. He just understands completely. He also did a really good series on Hamlet, and I think he also did a series on The Tempest, but I don't think I finished that one. I don't think I listened to the whole series on that one. But Chop Bard, really, really great podcast, just so good, so good. And if you guys have listened to any other Shakespeare podcasts, let me know, because I am super interested. I love podcasts, and Shakespeare is great. Let me see. Yes, oh my gosh, the mistranslations in this one are just so... The "Wherefore art thou" gets me every time when I hear people try to use it in like, a normal setting where they are trying to say like, "Where are you?" instead of "Why are you?" That gets me so, like, it literally makes me mad every single time. And yeah, I totally get that mistranslation stuff. It happens in Hamlet too sometimes, but Romeo and Juliet has like the biggest one, the "Wherefore art thou." People just goes right over their heads. True, I can understand that, but I don't think it's supposed to be necessarily like hyper realistic. I think it's more supposed to be like an allegory or like a message, like, it's not supposed to be like completely... I feel like it would be like... it's also like when people are like, Hamlet takes way too long to do anything in the play, and I'm like, first of all, the timeline is kind of iffy in that one, and also it's about ghosts and like murdering uncles, and it's not super realistic. Like, so I feel like, I don't think that Romeo and Juliet's supposed to be like a direct like translation of like, this is how things are, this is how love is, this is what love is. And I feel like, with teenagers, emotions are heightened, and I think that it's kind of trying to convey that message of heightened teenage love or heightened teenage emotions. And I don't know, I think that I can totally understand that, like, oh, it was super fast and it doesn't really, you know, I can't really believe that, or it doesn't seem realistic. And I feel like that's also kind of like the point a little bit of being like, okay, I understand that these teenage emotions might not completely be love, but we shouldn't shun them 100% and just completely disregard them, because that's kind of what a lot of the bad adults in the play do. So that's kind of where I see it. It's not completely supposed to be realistic. It's just supposed to convey a message that, you know, we should respect the emotions and the feelings of teenagers, or things are gonna go to shit. Yes, yeah. The star-crossed lovers thing is also a huge misinterpretation. And I don't know, I feel like there are just so many misinterpretations with Romeo and Juliet, even though it literally explains basically the entire play in the very beginning with the prologue, where it says, two households both alike in dignity, in fair Verona where we lay our scene, from ancient grudge break to new mutiny, where civil blood makes civil hands unclean. From forth the fatal loins of these two foes, a pair of star-crossed lovers take their life, whose misadventured piteous overthrows doth with their death bury their parents' strife. The fearful passage of their death-marked love, and the continuance of their parents' rage, which but their children's end not could remove. This is like literally my two favorite lines, where it's, and the continuance of their parents' rage, which but their children's end not could remove. That is just, it literally, in 2 lines, it's basically the entire play. Is now the tiara's traffic of our stage, the which if you with patient ears attend. That is also like such an important line. I feel like, you know, you really need to be kind of like understanding and patient and really do like a close listen to this play. And if you with patient ears attend, what here shall miss, our toil shall strive to mend. Which I think, like, not enough people, especially in like, I don't know, like, I can't really, when I was taught Romeo and Juliet in high school, we didn't really focus on it a lot. We did read it, and we did some, like, memorization and stuff like that. We watched the movie, but I don't really remember having a lot of discussion about it. Like, I don't feel like we really focused on it enough, and I definitely know we didn't really focus on the prologue. It wasn't until I listened to that Chop Bard podcast where I was actually like able to really understand what the prologue was trying to tell us, which I think is super interesting. And even as like a 5th grader, when I was in 5th grade and I first read this play by myself, I did really like it. I don't think I understood completely what it was about, but I do remember enjoying it. And then in freshman year I did enjoy it, but we didn't talk about it enough. So it definitely wasn't until that podcast where I was like, oh, I get it. You know, it makes more sense to me. Okay, the podcast name is Chop Bard. So I'll try to like link it somewhere. I'm gonna see if I can find the link for it. It is super good. And like I said, they have like, he does different series for different plays. So I think the first series is Romeo and Juliet, or the first series is Hamlet. I can't remember. I think the first series is actually Hamlet. And then the second one I think is Romeo and Juliet. So I will see if I can find it here. But yeah, that's the only Shakespeare podcast that I've ever listened to. So if any of you listen to other Shakespeare podcasts, let me know. Okay, my computer's going so slowly. I'm so sorry. Okay, awesome, you found it. I'll try to like leave a link for everyone else. Yeah, my English teacher in freshman year was not the best. Yeah, I have so many stories about that teacher, and he was really out there. Not the greatest English teacher. I don't think he really cared a lot about English, but he was also the teacher that yelled at me for reading ahead in the books that we read. So if that tells you anything, that's the kind of teacher I had freshman year of high school. Whoa, oh my gosh, that's incredible. I don't think we even wrote a single essay about Romeo and Juliet in that class. I can't remember it. And I do remember we watched the like older version, the one with the guy that looks like Zac Efron. But that was about it. I don't even know if we really technically finished the play. I know I did. I don't think the rest of the class did. But we did watch the movie, and that's about it. So definitely did not have the best English teacher. Yeah, he's really awful. He's not great. But yeah. Okay, so this is the web page for Chop Bar. That's what like the icon looks like. It should be on like, if you have an iPhone, it should be on the podcast app. I don't know if it's on Spotify, but if you go to the website, I'm sure they have like ways to listen to it. Oh yeah, I think you can actually listen to it on the website, which is pretty cool. Yeah, they have A Midsummer Night's Dream, they have The Winter's Tale, King Lear, Twelfth Night, just like all of them basically. Macbeth, Richard II. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty in depth. He really goes through like every single scene, and really he does a really great job. And I actually, when I took an English class in college, I actually sent this to my professor, and she really liked it too. So I think it's a pretty good resource for anything Shakespeare, especially while you're reading the play. It really helps. But yeah. So that's a lot. Let me see. Yes! Oh my gosh, the guy that looked like Zac Efron. I have only seen that version once, but I do remember when I was watching it in high school, like we were like screaming about the guy that looked like Zac Efron, because he looks like him so much. Like that is his doppelganger. Like they could be like, okay, we need to have a Romeo and Juliet adaptation now with, well, I guess Zac Efron's a little too old for that now, but that would have been so cool back in like High School Musical days, because I think he would have made such a good Romeo. Because for me, like the way that I view Romeo, he's kind of like bumbling, like goofy, kind of, you know, not all there, but he's well-intentioned and sweet, but he's just a goofball, I guess. I don't know. That's just how I see Romeo, and I love that. I think he's totally adorable, like totally like soft boy aesthetic. But and then like Juliet's like really smart and like super cool. So I would love to see like a modern adaptation that does that, where like Romeo's like the soft boy and like Juliet's this like really cool, intelligent girl person, like protester kind of thing. Also, 1 second, I have to go get my charger because my phone is going to die in like, I don't know. This is literally the messiest live show I've ever done. Like, who authorized this live show? It's so bad. But anyway, like I was saying, they should totally do a modern adaptation of this play with Romeo being like the soft boy and Juliet being like the really smart protester girl. I think that'd be so much fun. I would watch that. I don't know. Or I would read it. I think that'd be a kind of a cool YA book. But I feel like there's so many Romeo and Juliet adaptations that people are probably like, enough already. We don't need that. Which I totally understand. I'm just obsessed with Shakespeare, so I will take absolutely anything. Right? He really is not all there. He's not. Like, I love both of them equally. They're both awesome. But Romeo, I don't think he knows where he is half the time. So, yeah. I think that's why he has Benvolio and, like, you know, I think that's why he has, like, just, like, so many people around him all the time that he just needs someone to, like, guide him in the right direction sometimes. And then Juliet, she's kind of good on her own. Like, she has her nurse, but for the most part, she's pretty independent. Like, she can handle herself. Okay, I think we're all good now with, like, all of that. Anyway, so for adaptations, like, now that we're on, like, the subject of all that, are you talking about the movie with Haley Steinfeld? Because if you are, that's my favorite adaptation, which I don't know if that, like, I know for a lot of people who are, like, really into Shakespeare and, like, super, like, scholarly Shakespeare people, they don't like that version, and that's totally fine. That's totally valid. It's kind of like one of my guilty pleasure movies. I don't know if it's still on Netflix. If it's not, I kind of want to riot because I love that adaptation with Haley Steinfeld and Douglas Booth. Oh my gosh, that one is so good. I love Haley Steinfeld. Like, I love her music and stuff. I think that's the only movie I've ever seen her act in, but she's a great actress. I loved her as Juliet. She was, like, perfection. Oh, interesting. I wonder if there is a newer adaptation of Romeo and Juliet. I'm gonna Google it really quick because I want to know. I feel like I'm always kind of out of the loop with adaptations. Like, I just found out about the Ophelia movie. I don't know where I've been living, like under a rock maybe, but your girl did not know that there was going to be a movie with Daisy Ridley being Ophelia. Did not know about that. I'm gonna see if I can find anything. I can't remember when the Haley Steinfeld version came out, but it was fairly recently. It was like in the past like 5 years, I think. Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. I was Googling like Romeo and Juliet adaptations really like quick. I do need to see The Edge of 17. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I was a little wrong. It wasn't in the last 5 years, it was in the last 6 years. Okay, but I do need to see The Edge of 17. I keep meaning to, but I'm really bad at watching movies, so I don't know when that's gonna happen. Maybe I'll watch it with my brother. He really likes those kind of movies. But I was just searching up Romeo and Juliet adaptations, and I just saw the Brana Theater live trailer from 2015 with Lily James and the guy from that one movie. Was he also in Cinderella? I want to know. Hold on, I'm gonna look that up because it's that guy. He's really handsome, but I can't remember. But I remember seeing these pictures, and I was like, I just can't even. It's just amazing. Okay, okay, it's not telling me the whole cast, but I know it was definitely Lily James because those pictures were insane. They were just absolutely freaking incredible. Okay. Lily James and Richard Madden. He was the guy that was in Cinderella, which kind of makes sense because Kenneth Branagh was the one that directed Cinderella that had Lily James and Richard Madden as Cinderella and the Prince. So that makes a lot of sense that they would be also Romeo and Juliet. But I'll show you some of the pictures because they are just kind of just amazing. Like this one. Just like, what the heck? That picture, you probably can't see it, but Google it. It's Romeo and Juliet from 2016. And thank me later because they're just the best pictures. But yeah, I think the Haley Steinfeld version is probably my favorite. The only shitty part about it is that it has Ed Westwick in it, and he's a little controversial now with some of the, like, accusations of sexual misconduct, but I do really like this version. And it really sucks that he's in it because I love that adaptation. It's so good. It's not like perfectly well done. It's definitely not like a direct translation of the play to a movie. It's definitely adapted with, you know, a lot of like the scenes are kind of shortened. Some of the lines are changed, but for the most part, it really keeps like the essence of the play, which I really enjoy. And then I did just watch an entire series on YouTube. God, what is it called? But it's like a modern adaptation of Romeo and Juliet. I'm gonna look it up. I need to have my laptop back again. But it was really good. I think it was done as a project for their college. I'm not sure. I don't think it was done as like a nothing much to do. Like how that was done just kind of, you know, independently and not for like any class or something, but I'm pretty sure that this one was done for class. I'm gonna look it up though because that's really interesting. I never really thought about that. What is it called? It's like Jules and Monty. That's what it's called, Jules and Monty. It's on YouTube. Just search it up. It's really, really good. And it's really interesting because it is a modern adaptation, but they do use a lot of the lines from the actual play in a modern setting, which is like so interesting. You would think that it would take you out of the story too much because it's like this like Shakespearean language, but it's actually done pretty well. Like I was genuinely surprised. So that's what it looks like. Jules and Monty. It's really cute. It's not super long. I think it's maybe 20 episodes, if that. So it's like super fast, but it was just so good. So if you like Nothing Much to Do, I would totally recommend this web series. It was from a few years ago. Yeah, 5 years ago is when they did it. It says it's produced by students at Tufts University, so that's pretty cool. And I know that they've done other series based on like other stories, but I'm not really sure. It looks like they did something called Pantheon University, which I'm guessing is based off of Greek mythology, which is pretty cool. I haven't seen that, but their Romeo and Juliet is just so good. Also, speaking of adaptations, does anyone know of any Romeo and Juliet, like specifically Romeo and Juliet adaptations in like young adult novels? Because I can like think of things that are possibly like inspired by Romeo and Juliet, where it's like the quote unquote star-crossed lovers thing, which also I just remembered this, how this bugs me when people are like, they're star-crossed lovers, but they're from like, one of them's rich and one of them's poor, which doesn't really work in the sense of Romeo and Juliet because they should be from houses alike in dignity and like okay, what does the prologue say? Me not knowing my Romeo and Juliet. Two households both alike in dignity. So it's like, it doesn't really make sense for them to be from completely separate, like, walks of life. They should be fairly similar and have, like, a legit, like, not a legitimate, because clearly there's no legitimate reason for these two houses to be, like, you know, against each other. But, you know what I mean. But anyway, I don't really know any like actual adaptations of Romeo and Juliet specifically. Like I have so many for Much Ado About Nothing. I don't think I have any for Hamlet. Yeah, I think I mostly only have stuff for like Much Ado About Nothing, Taming of the Shrew, but I don't really have any of this one. Do we have any Midsummer Night's Dream adaptations in YA? I don't know. That's so interesting. I feel like I should know this, but I don't. But I think that'd be super interesting to find out, like, what kind of Shakespeare adaptations we have in YA, because I do have a few that are Shakespeare, like, specific, like, I just got this one, Speak Easy, Speak Love. This is a Much Ado About Nothing adaptation, but I don't know of any for Romeo and Juliet, which is so strange and weird. But yeah. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to touch on. Is there any, like, do you guys have any other opinions on this play? Anything you liked, disliked? Any of your favorite characters? Like, I think my favorite character is clearly Juliet. I love her the most. I tend to gravitate more towards the female characters in Shakespeare plays. Like, I really enjoyed Desdemona in Othello, even though she didn't really have a huge part, but I did like her sections of Othello. So I think I just tend to gravitate towards the female characters. Oh, that's so interesting. I love when people, like, are super interested in Rosaline, because it's just like, I don't know, I guess I've just never really thought about her too much, which is, you know, I don't know if that's, I think that's probably, you know, the intention, that we're not really supposed to think about her too much, but I really think that's super interesting when people do, and like when they actually like want to go in depth on the background of Rosaline. I know that in Always Never Yours, I'm pretty sure one of the characters is like writing a screenplay or an actual play about Rosaline. But oh my gosh, Mercutio, he is like a forever favorite. I feel like everyone loves him. Like, he is just such a universally well-liked character because he's just awesome. Like, he is so cool. And, you know, I love every single scene that he's in. And, oh, just so good. He's just such a good character. Like, I feel like, you know, Shakespeare really hit his, like, peak with Mercutio. Like, he's just really good. I also really like Benvolio. He's another total soft boy. Love him. So, he's the best. I love all of Romeo's friends. Like, Benvolio and Mercutio are just the best. So good. Almost better than Romeo. I mean, I like Romeo, but his friends are pretty cool, so. I mean, I guess that means that he has really good taste in people. Oh my god, 100% they're in love. I love any single adaptation of Romeo and Juliet where they're in love. They are, like, supposed to be in love, in my opinion. They should be, at least, because I feel like that's super valid. Yeah. I mean, I can't imagine anyone feeling like they're not. Let's see. What else? I really like the nurse. Oh, the really interesting thing about Jules and Monty, and I feel like the really interesting thing about a lot of modern Romeo and Juliet adaptations is that they make the nurse Juliet's age, which is interesting. Hello, late person. Yeah, I was actually really late to this live show, so, I mean, yeah, there should be a club. The Friar is really great. I think that there's so many, I always love that, I think there's a post that I saw somewhere where they're like, how come the friars in every single Shakespeare play are always like, you know what would be a great plan is you should pretend to die. And I'm just like, it's kind of true. And it doesn't work out in Romeo and Juliet, but it really works out in Much Ado About Nothing. Right? I feel like it's a little weird sometimes for the nurse to be Juliet's age, but I mean, I kind of get it, but also it's just a little weird. I think it's better if she's like older, like an older mentor sort of character, but I mean, it just depends on, I guess, how people view her character. I want to know what happens to the friar too. If I was the friar and I was like, you know, it'd be a great plan, let's just pretend to die and then things will be okay, and then things like don't work out and they, like, people actually die, I would feel so bad. Like, I would just, I don't know what I would do. Like, that would just be the worst case scenario of, like, ever of life, and it would just be not great. So yeah, I think that'd be super interesting. I think that this play has some really solid characters. Yeah, I agree. It definitely cancels out those kind of jokes. Like, it doesn't really, like, translate as well when she's younger instead of, like, when she's much older than all of them. Because it makes way more sense to, like, try to, like, joke with an older person and they're not, like, getting it. Like, they're not hip with, like, the lingo. So, I totally agree. It makes way more sense when the nurse is, like, much older. Oh, I was going to talk about West Side Story, because I feel like that's an adaptation that I just keep forgetting about, and I'm like, oh yeah, it is a Romeo and Juliet adaptation, and it's one of my favorite musicals. I freaking love West Side Story so much. So good. You like Paris. Oh my gosh, I go back and forth with liking Paris. I like him because I don't know, like, I feel like a good case could be made for Paris. I don't like the Paris character in West Side Story, though. Like, speaking of West Side Story, I can never remember his name, though. Which kind of speaks to his character, I think. But I saw West Side Story done at my alma mater in April, like earlier in April, and it was so freaking good. I've never seen West Side Story done live, but holy moly, that freaking play, that musical, so good live. Just like the best live. Just, oh my gosh. And like, I wasn't really expecting much. Like, I've been to high school productions and they're pretty good. Like, we have some really good theater classes, theater programs at my schools, like, near me. But I've never really been, like, super, like, over the moon impressed. I've been, like, impressed because, oh, they're doing a really great job for a high school play, but, like, I saw West Side Story and it was just so incredible. Like, the Tony was just, like, professional level, and then the Maria was professional level, even though I guess, like, the girl that played Maria at my high school, she had never, like, sung before in, like, any sort of setting. She, like, didn't have any singing training, any acting training, anything, and she was just so good. People were legitimately sobbing, and it was so good. I love West Side Story. I think it's amazing. I cannot wait for the Spielberg version of West Side Story. I follow the girl that was hired to play Maria, or cast, I guess, to play Maria, and she's really cool. And I love Ansel Elgort. I have the biggest crush on Ansel Elgort. It is not even funny. So yeah, I'm super excited about that adaptation. It's gonna be so good. It's gonna be literally so good. But yeah, I mean, I don't have really anything else to say about Romeo and Juliet. I feel like I've kind of talked about everything I wanted to talk about. And, we touched on my feelings about the play, and I love getting to hear all of your guys' opinions about this play, because I feel like we all have very different opinions about it, which is so much fun. I feel like I think in Othello we all pretty much felt the same way, but this one I feel like is definitely one where everyone has different opinions, and it's just going to be super interesting. Also, okay, so in May, I think we should get to May's play. And I don't have a copy of it. Well, technically I do, because I do have it in my huge, giant Shakespeare book. I think that we should do Love's Labour's Lost for May's play. So let me know if you agree, or if you have any other suggestions. But I think we're definitely going to do Love's Labour's Lost, because it's a play I haven't actually read before, but I've seen. So I think that's going to be super interesting, and it's also a really underhyped play. And I feel like we haven't really done a super underhyped play yet, which will be super fun. So I think we're going to do Love's Labour's Lost. I think that's a pretty good play to go for with May. And yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed this live show, and I will mention May's play on the Twitter account, so if you guys forget, or, you know, maybe you're not here, so I don't know why I'd be saying that now, but thank you guys for joining this live show. It was a little messy. It was definitely late. I'm so sorry about that. And yeah, so thank you guys for having such a good conversation about one of my all-time favorite plays, and I will see you guys in my next live show.